keep that in mind. Hi, my name is Kristie, and I have always considered myself an artist. Art has always been something that I'm really passionate about, and it's always been a great outlet for me. And over these past 3 months, I have discovered the world of digital art. I'm going to jump into a little bit of history here. We start off in the early 1950s. This is when digital art is starting to emerge. Because computers are so expensive and big, they're mostly at private institutions and laboratories and universities. So artists would either work through these institutions or they would use different methods of technology. An example of this was Ben Lepofsky. He used an oscilloscope, and that is a device that is used to measure wave frequencies, and he manipulated these frequencies to create these pieces, and these are just a few of the many pieces he created over his time as an artist. Then we get to the 60s. There's still not a lot of access to computers, but digital art is actually starting to be recognized. And so artists are starting to work with programmers because drawing programs are not in existence, and they're starting to create drawing programs for them to use. A movement also started in the 60s, and this was plotter drawings. And the best way to describe this is literally programming out the step-by-step process. And it was incredibly time-consuming and very hard to do. This is considered one of the most complicated plotter drawings in existence, and this was made by Friedrich in 1965. We then get to the 70s, and artists are starting to write their own programs. This is because PCs entered the mass market in 77, and so now artists have access to computers. Apple is founded in 75, and Microsoft is founded in 76, and so now computers are actually in the mass markets, and people can buy them and have access to them. Fun fact, in the early 70s, Slade School of Fine Art in London, which you may have heard of, released their experimental computer and technology wing, and they were actually the first school to ever incorporate digital art into their programs. And while it is not open today, it is now an exhibition wing for all of the pieces. We then get to the 80s, and Microsoft and Apple are much more popular, and artists are starting to design their own programs and interfaces. Because of the technology background that it kind of required at the time, most artists had some sort of computer background, so they were able to design their own programs. However, programs have started to come into existence. Adobe was founded in 82, and MacPaint, which is considered the first commercially released drawing program, was released in 84. And Adobe Draw, which is the program that I use, was released for the tablet in 87. Now, who can tell me which artist created this piece? Roberta.
Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol, that is correct. But what you guys might not know is that he was actually a digital artist. In 1985, Warhol signed a deal with Commodore International, which was a growing computer company, and in front of a live audience, he used their new technology, ProPaint, and created a digital painting of a popular singer from the time. And in 2014, people going through his house found a collection of floppy disks with over 30 digital drawings that he created and never released. And this is just one of them, and it was something that nobody even knew until 2014, so feel free to go look that up, they're really cool drawings. Digital art does not have the deep roots that mediums such as oil painting or traditional drawing have, and so it's not really a very developed art style yet. However, technology is expanding and growing so fast that there are now thousands of drawing programs in existence, and I wanted to learn what makes different art programs unique. Now, this is the program that I use. This is Adobe Draw. And each program has two unique things, and that is the interface and the brush set. The interface is quite literally the layout and where different parts of it are. And so where the brushes are, how easy it is to use, how easy it is to navigate. And then there are the brushes, and each brush has a unique texture and a unique style. And the typical drawing program has between 50 to 200 brushes. Adobe Draw has 5, so it's pretty low. There's not a lot of brushes in this program, but because I'm not using a lot of textures in the pieces that I do, I find it super great. I really like it. But programs such as Procreate have 600 brushes, and you can download more from online sources. Now, I have a lot of roots in traditional drawing, and I have been traditional drawing for 3.5 years. I actually started with my friend Ella, and we were just learning in the library together through books and just teaching each other how to draw. And I have been trying to translate my art style to digital art, and that was a challenge for me because it was very difficult learning how to use the program. And so I looked into 3 main styles of digital art. And the first was just digital drawing. And drawing is made up of 3 parts, and that is inking lines, base colors, and shading. And this is what I was most used to. This is the kind of drawing style that I would do traditionally and with 2D art. And so this was the easiest for me to translate. The next is digital painting. I hate it. I hate digital painting. It's so hard. It's so bad. I do not have the patience. I do not have the time. This is a fan art piece of Gamora, and I don't like it, if I'm being honest. But it was a good thing for me to experiment with and try with, although it's super time consuming, and so digital painting is really for people who are good at it and have the time for it. And I also did a bit of photo manipulation. And this is the first iteration of a piece that I will show you later. And photo manipulation is exactly what it sounds like. You take a picture and you go over it in Adobe Draw or another program, and you enhance it to make it look the way you want. Now, as an artist, and I'm sure many others can relate, the hardest thing to find is inspiration. You find your best inspiration when you're in social studies class and you're supposed to be taking notes. When you actually sit down, you are supposed to be, when you have a pencil and paper, you're ready to draw, you have no idea what to do. And because most of my drawing time is come in 15-minute chunks and like very specific periods, I don't really get to pick when my inspiration happens. And so I have developed a few techniques to come up with inspiration on the spot. The first is Pinterest. This is an example of one of the many pins I have saved to my drawing inspiration board. And while I have not used this one yet, it is most definitely on my list. There are a lot of different drawing poses that you can use, and whenever I get stuck, I can just go over to Pinterest and find one of the drawing poses and use that to inspire a piece of art. I have also developed a technique that I call motion capturing. And one thing that makes a pose interesting in a drawing is dynamicism, or how well the pose flows. And in my opinion, one thing that makes a drawing dynamic is the motion inside of the pose. And so I've developed a technique where I take a video of someone and I'll have them run or jump. If they're a dancer person, they could do some spinny, flippy thing. Not a dancer, I don't know what they would do. If they're flexible, I'll have them do some stuff. And then I will go back through the video and take screenshots of the poses that I like. And that's where I get poses like this. And here I was with my sister at the beach. I just told her to run around and do some stuff for drawing poses. And here are a few. I haven't used them yet, but they can either be used for poses or for a photo manipulation piece that I'm going to use in the future. Now this is a drawing that took me about 3 class periods, so about 3 hours. A little shy of 3 hours, and there are 4 main steps when I approach a drawing like this. And the first is my sketch layer. And in drawing programs, you can have as many layers as you want. And layers are amazing. They're something that you don't get with traditional. Each one is you can move it, you can change which layer is on top, you can change how see-through it is, and it's very unique to digital drawing. And so I have each aspect of my drawing in a different layer. And I always sketch in blue so I can tell the difference between my sketch layer and my inking layer. But once I finish my sketch, I do inking, and it's all the same thickness, it's all the same line length, and I kind of clean it up and make it look a little bit more professional. And then I use the fill feature on Adobe Draw, and I go in and add my flat base colors, and it's starting to actually look like a drawing. And from there, it's just adding a little bit of background, adding a little bit of shading, and cleaning it up to make it look the way I want. Now this is a time lapse. Oops. I'm going to show it in Adobe Draw because I don't know how this computer works. But the one thing I love most about this program is that it automatically does time lapses. And so it will automatically save your process, so you don't have to turn on screen recording. This is the entire process of me creating this piece. And I always start with a line of motion, and then I can go back in. For this particular piece, I actually got a little bit of help from Kira, who is an ex-dancer, and she showed me a little bit about the pose and how the toes would curve at the end of the point shoe. And just basically getting a little bit of inspiration and doing a bit of background research. And as you can see, there's a lot of finalizing that goes on here. There are a bunch of things that I need to fix. And then I go back in my line layer. And the line layer is super unforgiving because what I do is I duplicate the line layer to fill in the color, which is what I'm doing now. And once you duplicate it, you really can't go back and fix it. But after that, I can just go in, and I'm going to be honest, shading is my favorite part. I really love it. It adds a lot of depth. And then you can just go back in and add the background and enhance it. And from there, it's just cleaning up the little bits and details that you haven't done yet, and just finalizing the whole piece and making it look like an actual piece of art. Now, I have been repeating that process over and over again for the past 3 months, and I have something around 45 digital drawings that I have done. Not all of them are good, I can assure you, but I have collected all of them in my portfolio. The URL is kristisportfolio.wixsite.com/website. I don't have business cards because I'm not that fancy, but I have it up on the board here if you want to look at it. And I not only have my digital drawings uploaded there, but I have some of my time lapses, which I just showed you, and some resources for anyone who's interested in getting started with digital or traditional drawing. Now I'm going to show you a few of my pieces. Just showing you a little bit of where I come from. These are 2 traditional drawing pieces that I did a little while ago. On the right, I use my Copic markers, which are my babies, and I love them very much. This is the first digital drawing piece that I did, and I really hate it, and I really didn't want to show it to you, but I felt like I should because this is where I came from, and I have come a long way. This is the piece that I did a little while ago. It was inspired by a 2D piece that I did that I didn't actually end up putting in this presentation. But I'm thinking of making sticker prints of this if I ever end up doing that. This is a photo manipulation piece I said that I was going to show you earlier. This was actually in art class. We ended up enhancing it and using it for a project, and I really love how this one turned out. I love the galaxy vibes. This is a much more emotional piece than I'm used to doing. It was actually inspired by a scene from a TV show that I watched. Don't ask what it is, you won't know it. But it was a super fun piece to do. This was actually based off of the traditional drawing that I showed you a few slides ago, and I was able to create that in a digital format. This was my first commission. I was supposed to get $10. I got a whole dollar. I lost it, but it's the thought that counts. And this was super fun. It took me 15 minutes to do. Super sketchy, super rough. I didn't end up doing an inking layer. It's really messy, but I'm super happy with how it turned out. I think it's super cute. This is Baymax from Big Hero 6, for anyone who knows that movie. I had just finished watching it with my cousins, and I really wanted to draw it, and that was super fun. This is a photo manipulation piece. Thanks to Georgie, she took the picture. It's a super great picture. I ended up putting a filter on it. Yeah. Adding the lines and using it. You just couldn't take the praise. The younger viewers, avert your eyes. This is a slightly disturbing piece that I did about a week ago. I don't have a lot of explanation for this, but I did really enjoy drawing it. This is a photo I did for Kira's kindergarten buddy. Her birthday is on the 17th, and she's making a card for her, so I drew a unicorn dabbing. We call it a dabicorn. All of you get a preview at this year's Peter Pan poster. Matthew hasn't put them up yet, but this is going to be the final design that he's going to put up. And it was actually, he had the idea for it, but I actually drew it and made it look sort of nice. I think it looks nice. This is an example of like the third piece I ever did on digital. What I did is I scanned in a drawing that I did in traditional, and then I did over the lines in digital. I have some very, very strict rules about tracing because of my moral compass. And anyone who's ever talked to me about it knows that I have a very long spiel about it. But in short, I am going to say tracing is not okay. Do not trace unless there are a few exceptions, unless it's your own artwork or unless you're not going to take credit for it. That's all I'm going to say now because I could go on a 20-minute rampage about this. Anyone who's seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, it was kind of a thing on the internet a while ago to make your Spider-Sona or your Spider-Man persona. This is not me. This is one that I drew for my friend Breezy at diving. And I don't know why I like this piece. I really do. I really like how it turned out. I love the color scheme of it. This is the drawing that you may have seen in Sydney's presentation. These are the two characters from her in-progress graphic novel, and February on the left, Lark on the right. And I really love the color scheme in this one. It was super fun to do. This is a piece that I did about a week ago, and it was, I kind of felt the same February Lark color scheme in this one, and I used it again. And I really like how that one turned out. And the last I'm going to show you is a drawing of progress that I'm working on. And it's maybe going to be a series. I probably am not going to make it a series, but I drew the star signs. On the left is Capricorn, on the right is Aquarius. And actually Capricorn is kind of a throwback to my old drawing style because when I started out in drawing, I really wanted to do a lot more of like a manga cartoon style, but I really have evolved from that. But it was kind of a throwback to my old style and it was super fun to do. And while I know I'm probably not going to finish this, it was fun to do these two. Now the next step for me was actually teaching digital art, and this was part of my outreach. And if I'm being honest, I was incredibly intimidated by this. I never thought I was a good enough artist to teach other people art, but it was super fun for me, and the first thing that I did was a teacher workshop. And it was 1 hour after school. I taught them the basics of Adobe Draw and how to draw a human head above the shoulders. And while I didn't get any of their drawings in the presentation, I'm sure any of them would be very happy to show you their drawings. Please feel free to ask them, especially Bob. This was really good. Feel free to ask, and I'm sure he will be very happy to show you. And then Sydney and I ran an exploration together, and explorations are something really cool at Do School. Normally we do it during ERV week, but it is 1 hour slot in the afternoon for 4 days where you're going to teach whatever you want, either by an 8th grader or a teacher. And Sydney's been focusing a lot on digital character creation. And so we combined our skills and did a digital drawing and character creation workshop. And she taught how to make a unique character, and I showed them the skills they needed to actually draw that. And at the end of the exploration, everybody got to make a sticker of their final piece, and it was super fun. I know I enjoyed it. I hope everybody else did as well. Digital art is a movement, and it is somewhere that we're at right now. It doesn't have very deep roots, but it is expanding so fast, and it is becoming such a big movement. And it was actually described to me in an analogy by Lisa. She compared it to a Kindle. And she asked me if I thought that digital was going to replace traditional, like Kindles were going to replace books. And I say replace in air quotes because that is kind of an opinion. But simultaneously, I think that's a very sad idea, because I don't think you really can be a quality digital artist without having quality traditional roots. There's so many shortcuts you can take with digital. I mean, there's an undo button. You can undo anything you want. There's layers, there's brushes, and there's so many ways you can, I wouldn't say cheat, but it really is a very different art style. And I think it'd be sad to give people an experience with digital without having them do that learning process with traditional that actually makes you an artist, in my humble opinion. But to sum it up, I'm going to use a quote from Pablo Picasso. To me, there is no past or future in art. If a work of art does not exist in the present, it must not be considered at all. Thank you.
So you talked about the plotter drawing in the way beginning. So you said it was very difficult. So what did they actually do to make that, and what made it difficult?
So I haven't studied a lot of plotter drawings. History is mostly my background research, but what I do know is that for all of the 8th graders in the room, we just did our Lego robotics unit, and it was very similar to that of programming: move forward half an inch, make a 90-degree angle, move forward another half an inch. It was incredibly time-consuming, took a lot of time, and it was very difficult, which is why it mostly lived in the 60s, because then we moved on to like easier art. But what I do know about it is that it was a very difficult thing to do, and it was very time-consuming, but it was a complicated art form, and it really was something that took a lot of time, and it took a lot of having a vision and being able to accurately translate that and to program it out. Yes?
I have a question about digital painting.
Yes.
When I think about the difference between drawing and painting, to me it's mostly about what's in your hand. So digitally, if you're using a stylus for either, what's the difference between digital painting?
All right. I'm going to pop over to Adobe Draw to show you this. So I did a little bit of digital painting, and the biggest difference that I noticed was actually because of my art style. I normally do inking on the lines of my drawings. And so this had no ink lines, no black lines, no boundaries. So all of the sharp edges had to be made through shading. And there are 5 brushes here. Each one of them has different properties, and you can change it about it. But when you're doing digital painting, you would normally use something like this kind of brush because it's tapered. Or you would use this kind of brush because it's tapered, but it's also at an angle. And so it's just different brushes and different textures, and learning how to get comfortable with those and using those. But it is similar to traditional painting in the way that it's a lot more complicated, and you really can't afford to make mistakes or really big mistakes because it's hard to undo and hard to fix. Yes?
So do you think this is something that, it's like, I know you're an artist, but I know you continue to do art. Do you think this is a form of art that you think you'll continue to do after this project?
I really enjoy it. I really love it. I do not have a tablet at home that is compatible with Adobe Draw. I have like an iPad 0.
Hey, that's mine!
That is. But hopefully I'll still be able to use the school's iPad Pro for the rest of the year. Yeah, I might take it home with me. They might not notice. It's a private school. They can buy another one.
Speaking of this access to technology materials, do you think that digital art is only accessible to like a few?
I think that's a really great question. And I actually found a YouTuber artist that I really enjoy. Her name is Nadia Axel. She does time lapses and speed paints online. And I watched one of her videos, and it was just like, what is digital art and how do you find an art style? And she talked a lot about how a lot of digital paintings, like amazing digital art, can actually be created on an iPhone with your finger. And it might be hard to get used to, and it's kind of a hard style to pick up. But I think that artists who are super serious about it and like actually make a career out of it can use tablets and computer programs or drawing tablets. But I think that digital art is not limited to computers and iPads like Ben Lepowski did. You know, I think that is definitely considered digital art if it's using technology to create art. And so it just depends what you define as digital, I guess.
Did you ever do any like drawings or paintings that were people, like you do like a landscape or a setting or like design?
I did. Actually, I can find that. So I don't really do a lot of backgrounds. It's not really something that I'm super used to. But I did a little bit of an experiment to try to teach myself how to do backgrounds and layouts. And this this took me like 5 days. It took much longer than it should have for someone with my art experience. But doing back arts is definitely something that I want to get a lot more used to. But I just have a lot more experience and I find it more fun to draw humans and human faces. Yes.
Which piece of digital art would you say was your favorite?
I kind of figured I was going to get this question. I don't think I have a favorite. I have poses that I really enjoy and colors that I really enjoy. And I really enjoyed the colors in the February and large drawing. I really love how that one turned out. Thank you to Sydney for the inspiration. But a lot of the drawings that I've done on here, each one of them is kind of my baby, so it's like picking your favorite child, which is a hard thing to do. But I know that some of them I really like. I really like the facial expression on this one. I feel like, I don't know, that was like a first try thing. I don't even know what happened, but I like it. But you know, I really enjoy a lot of these. It's kind of hard to choose a favorite.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
Is there a lot of controversy around digital art? Because you said maybe it could be considered as cheating other people and like reasons that they don't like it as much.
Yes. So anyone who is an art snob would say it's cheating. And I am not one of those, but I think there's like a billion different shortcuts you can take. And so it really does depend whether you have traditional or digital roots. Because I don't think it's really easy to compare them because digital is actually very much different from traditional, and anyone who has digital experience can say this. But I think there's a lot of corners you can cut, and you can trace so easily. What you can do is, I talked a little bit about the layers, but you can add in an image layer, and let's say I just add in, I can just add in this image here, and I can just trace over all of the lines in this and say it's my art piece. And it's a super easy thing to do, which is why I get very passionate when I talk about tracing. Yes. A few weeks ago, I went back to try some traditional again, and it was so sad. I was working on a piece, and I was coloring it in, and I reached in with my fingers to zoom in and rotate the canvas. And it was a sheet of paper. And I thought it made me very sad, because I've been doing traditional for 3.5 years, and I'm kind of losing touch with it, but I think that both of them I enjoy in different ways, because with digital I'm a lot sloppier and I care a lot less about it because I can just undo it. I'm a lot less cautious and I plan it out a lot less. But I think they're both enjoyable in different ways, because traditional is very frustrating if you don't get it right because you can't fix it. Yes?
What would you say are the pros and cons of digital versus regular?
Okay, that's a good question. Digital is a lot easier to get started with if you're starting to be like, if you want to be like a good artist, and if you want your products to be good, because you can change things, you can rotate things, you can transform things, you can change the layer, there's a fill feature, there's a billion different things on there that you don't get in traditional. But I think that if you really want to be like a good artist, and like you enjoy art, and you actually have an appreciation for doing art, you should do traditional, because it's harder and it's frustrating, and it's easier to see how far you've come when your first day you can't draw an eye, and 2 years later it takes you 30 seconds. Yes.
So, sorry, connection there. So is that sort of like how if you want to become a pop singer or something, you should also have a classical background so that you know how to like sing in a healthy way or something?
I completely trust you on that. I'm tone deaf, so I don't
No,
have
but like,
experience. I think that would be a good analogy.
Okay.
Yeah.
sorry.
Just having a background in where the art form started can help you have a good platform to come off
Okay.
of when you get where it is today. Yes.
I have a two-part question. First of all, are there digital artists out there who are like really famous and or are being collected? The second question, kind of related, is in a similar way that like Impressionists revolutionized the art world and then pop art was a turning point, have there been those kind of turning points in digital art?
Okay, so mostly what you see with digital art and where people use it is on social media. And you see it in prints and commissions and having people pay other people for it because it's such an easier thing to do and it's easier to make it perfect. As far as famous digital artists go, most of the artists that I know are on YouTube and on other social media platforms where they can just post their art and anyone can see it. And like I said, Maggie Axel is one of my favorites. But as far as famous goes, you can really recognize a certain style, and there are artists that you can really recognize, but because a lot of them have like screen names, you don't really know who they are. But I think that as far as a revolutionary point goes, I think that you're seeing digital a lot more than you used to, and it's easier to like post digital art, because when you're like scanning a traditional drawing, it can look really bad if you don't get the lighting right, you don't get the colors right. But digital is going to look exactly the way it does on your iPad, wherever you post it. And so I think that I hope it doesn't replace traditional, but I think that it is definitely becoming a huge thing, and that it is going to become a very famous part of art.